Today's Shiur is dedicated just to define the concept of Amirah LeNochri. As we all know, many sugis in Shas teach the fundamental principle that Amirah LeNochri shavus. It is an issa derabanan to ask a non-Jew to perform any malacha and Shabbos. It is not only asking clearly and explicitly asking a non-Jew to do a malacha, even if he does a malacha on his own. L'tzorech Yisrael, there is a mitzvah limchois boy. We need to object. Amirah LeNochri shvus. That's the Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Nun Omid Aleph Gittin Chesomed Beis Bova Metziat Tzaddik Omid Aleph, and many other sources. What is the basis of the Issa of Amirah LeNochri? There are three different approaches, three different opinions. Begedolei Rabbi Seinu Harishainim. Rashi writes in Avodah Zorah Tezvav Omid Beis, Divrei Kabbalah Mimtzoi Cheftzechu V'daber Dovo. What we find in the Gemara, V'daber Dovo, Shelo yeh diburchu shel chol ki diburchu shel Shabbos. But Rashi says the Isser of Amirah LeNochri is based on this very same posuk in Divrei Nevi'im, Memtzar Chefzechu V'daber Davor. The Rambam, Perek Vov Melech Shabbos Halacha Aleph, writes that Amirah LeNochri is an Isser derabanan sheloi tehei kalo Shabbos be'einav. Shabbos shouldn't be kal be'einei habrios, like many other gzeres and harachakos that Chazal were metaken, all based on the fundamental principle that we find in the very beginning of Masechet Avos. Hu hoyu oim shloishe devorim, asu siag leTorah. That is the obligation, the duty of Chazal. Leharchik ha'odam minu avera. That is what we find in the very first Mishnah in Shas, very first Mishnah in Brochus. Lamo amru ad chatzois leharchik ha'odam minu avera. So the Rambam maintains Amirah LeNochri is an issa derabanan, like many other isurim derabanan. Laharchik esa odam and waveira and chazara choishish. If people will perform malachas by agents, by non-Jews, by goyim, tehei haShabbos kalo b'yainov, and in the long run, sooner or later, people will be machala Shabbos on their own, and that is the basis of Amirah LeNochri shvus. But the basic assumptions that Amirah LeNochri is a shvus is undisputed. In Bavli and Yerushalmi, we find no other opinion. However, the Mechilta de Rabbi Shmuel, goes all the way back to the Tanuim. In Mechilta and Parshas Boi, we find the drosha, Kol ma'alocha lo ya'osa boi, lo ya'osa. Lo ya'osa means not only you shall not do a malacha, but no malacha should be performed in Shabbos. Lo ya'asa, lo ya'asa malachtechu al yedei acherim. So the Mechilta seems to say that from the posuk kol malacha lo ya'asa boy, the Torah asers asiyas malacha al yedei acherim, and the kavana is al yedei goyim. And this Mechilta is quoted in various different rishonim, most notably Smag, Sefer Mitzvahs Godel, Harama Kutzi, one of the great Baalei HaTosfos, and in Mitzvahs Lo Ta'aseh, Ayin Hey, this Mag quotes the Mechilta and seems to understand the Mechilta that it's an Isser Diuraisa. Beis Yosef Siman Reish Mem Daled wonders, why would this Mag bring this Mechilta when it is clear in Shas Bavli that Amirah LeNochri is only a shvus and not an Isser Diuraisa? The Ramban, Perush Ramban al Torah, and this very same posuk in Parshas Boi, the Ramban says, the Mechilta is an asmachta ba'alma, and not a drosha gemura. So there's no contradiction between what we find in the Mechilta and what we find pashtus in various different sources in Shas Bavli, that Amirah LeNochri is only an Isser derabanan and not an Isser diuraisa. Lo kim b'demashma medivrei hasmag, that the Mechilta is a drosha gemura. So we do find some achronim that try to reconcile, try to be miyashiv. There should be no stira between the Mechilta on one hand and Pashtus Divrei HaGamora and different sources on the other hand. And there are two different fundamental approaches. Number one is Reb Shloime Kluger. And Reb Shloime Kluger is both in Chochmah Shloime, Shulchan Aruch Orachaim, Simishin Zayin, and in Sefer HaChaim. Reb Shloime Kluger wrote so many svarim just to keep track and remember the names of his Sforim is a feat, let alone remembering everything that he wrote. So one of the Sforim of Reb Shlomo Kluger and Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim is called Sefer HaChaim. Sefer HaChaim Reish Mem Daled, as well as Chochmah Shlomo Siman Shin Zayin. Reb Shlomo Kluger argues there might be a difference between Shaliach Ba'alma and a Poel that's getting compensated, that works for us, and we pay him for whatever he does in our service. Based on the Machna Ephraim Hilchos Shluchin Siman Yud Aleph, Machna Ephraim says, Af al pi she'ein shlichus legoy, and that is a Gemara Mefareshes in Bava Metzia Chav Beis, Kein tarimu gam atem. That's the posuk Bafroshes Tumah from which we learn Shlichus Shel Adam Kamoisoi, Kiddush Mem Aleph, and the Gemara Bava Metzia Chav Beis darshans, Ma atem b'nei bris, af shlichachem b'nei bris. A non-Jew that is not a ben bris, ein bo shlichus, but the Machna Ephraim maintains Yad Poel ki Yad Balabayis. And that rule applies even to a non-Jew. So if you pay someone, yesh shlichus afal pi she'enoi mibnei bris. What is the Machna Ephraim dealing with? He is dealing with Tvilas Kalem and Binyan Hamaka. These mitzvahs you could perform with a non-Jew, and it's still considered as if you did the mitzvah, because Yad Poel ki Yad Balabayis. Nesivos HaMishpat has the same approach in Simakuf Peches, and according to their understanding, Reb Shlomo Kluger says, maybe the Mechilta deals with a Poel that's being paid for his services, and with a Poel, there's an Issa D'Oraisa if he does a Malacha for you in Shabbos, Amirah LeNochri, which is merely a Shavuos, that is an anshu that you're not paying. So that would be one approach. According to Reb Shlomo Kluger, Reb Aaron Volkan, one of the Gedolim in Lithuania in pre-Holocaust period, Reb Aaron Volkan in Shalosh Teshuvos Zakana and Chelek Aleph Siman Tes Vav says that all those people that have non-Jewish maids in their homes, and that is a very common phenomenon in our day and age in America, in Europe, and many different places in the world, not so much in Eretz Yisrael, need to be very nizar, because in that case, because those women are being paid, it's an Issa D'Oraisa, if they do a malacha for you, and it's not merely Amirah LeNochri Shavuos. So that is one approach. But many other Achronim reject this idea totally. Beineim Tshuvas Maram Shik Orach Chaim Siman Kuf Tshuras Shai Horei Besomim, one of the great Gedolim in Galicia. And in my Sforim, I argued in various different sources that the entire concept of Yad Poel Ki Yad Balabayis is only in Mummanis, only in Schias Mammon. It has nothing to do with this Aveheta, has nothing to do with mitzvahs. Regarding the fundamental halachas of shlichus, there is no difference at all whether you pay or you don't pay. An Amirah LeNochri is never more than a Shavuos. Prima Godim, Mishbetzois, has a different approach. And Siman Reish Mem Gimel and the Prima Godim says maybe there would be a difference between a non-Jew performing halacha and malacha bishaloi, or a non-Jew performing halacha bishalano in our homes, with our chayfetz, with our objects, and maybe that would be an Issa D'Oraisa. But once again, all these svaras are just to b'miyashev, the smag, quoting the Mechilta. Nere poshet lahalacha, and that is also very clear in Sharatzi and the Mishnah Brura, Siman Reish Mem Gimel Sif Koten Zayin. Amirah LeNochri is a Shavuos, period. It is never more than a Shavuos. And the smag is only an asmachta b'yalma, like the Ramban writes in Parshas Boi Beperush and Ramban al Torah. And Amirah LeNochri is a Shavuos. Not only Amirah LeNochri is a Shavuos, it's a Shavuos Kal. And that is the Gemara in Eruvin Samaches, when the Gemara says, Shavuos she'ein bo ma'isa. Contrary to all the other Shavuosim in Hilchos Shabbos. Ein oilen al gabi ilan, yesh binyan bekelim, shchika samemonim, all the many Shavuosim. Amalachas derabon on Shabbos, are Shavuos sheyesh bo ma'isa, Amirah LeNochri is Shavuos she'ein bo ma'isa, and that is why it is Kal Yoisar. It is the easiest Shavuos because it's a Shavuos she'ein bo ma'isa. Where is the nafka min halacha? Many different halachas. Most notably, Shin Chof Ches Sif Yud Zayin. As you all probably know, Shin Chof Ches and El Shabbos are all the halachas of Choyle B'Shabbos. Sif Yud Zayin is a very complicated sif. 4 different opinions are brought in that single sif. But la halacha, the Mechaber Paskins, Amirah LeNochri is mutter for a Choyle she'ein boi sakona. No other Shavuos is mutter for a Choyle she'ein boi sakona besides Amirah LeNochri, because Amirah LeNochri is a Shavuos she'ein bo ma'isa. Shavuos, the Shavuos b'mokei mitzvah, Shin Zayin Sif Hey, is another halacha in which we find a kula by Amirah LeNochri. According to the Bala Itur, Amirah LeNochri is mutar b'mokei mitzvah, any mitzvah. However, on this count, ein halacha kebal ha'itur. Most Rishonim say Amirah LeNochri is mutar only for Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, not for other mitzvahs. The Bala Itur maintains any mitzvah. Yishuv Eretz Yisrael and Gittin Chesed Beis is just an example, but it's no different than any other mitzvah. So the Ramah in Simen Reish Ayin Vav quotes the Bala Itur, and the Ramah writes, most of the Rishonim don't agree with him. Ein lahokal b'mokem she'ein bo tzorech gadol. B'mokem sheyesh bo tzorech gadol, one could rely on the Bala Itur and be matir Amirah LeNochri for any mitzvah, for any dvar mitzvah. The Mishnah Berurah Shin Zayin Sif Koten Chov Daled writes, we cannot rely on the Bala Itur because the Ramah already rejected the Bala Itur in Simen Reish Ayin Vav. But it's interesting that Ramah writes, B'mokem she'ein bo tzorech gadol. And the Ramah brings that Rabim nahagu lahokal lefi divrei Bal HaItur. So this is just another example in which we find Amirah LeNochri, Kal, Tfei, Mishar, Shavusim. And that is because it's a Shavuos she'ein bo ma'isa. So let me share with you now a lamdische Gedank. Shalas Teshuvas Pnei Yeshua. Shalas Teshuvas Pnei Yeshua is the grandfather of the great Pnei Yeshua Shas. And the Shalas Teshuvas Pnei Yeshua was a contemporary of the Shach, one of the greatest Gedolim going back 350 years. And in Yoreh Deis Siman Gimel, he has a kasha, and many of the major achronim deal with this kasha. And he asks, according to Rashi and Bava Metzia, Ayin Aleph Amud Beis, Rashi writes that Lechumra Yesh Shlichus LeNochri. And what we find in Shas, Ein Shlichus LeNochri, is only Lekula. Lechumra Midrabanon Yesh Shlichus LeNochri. So according to Rashi and Bava Metzia, what was the need for a takana Amirah LeNochri Shavuos? Lechumra Yesh Shlichus LeNochri. Obviously, Chilul Shabbos is Lechumra. And Rashi writes that's a basic rule. Lechumra Yesh Shlichus LeNochri. So what was the need for a special takana Amirah LeNochri Shavuos? As I said, many of the major achronim deal with this question. Beis Meir Even Ezer Simen Hey, the Nesivis, Sam Sofer, Yeshuas Yankov, all were contemporaries, all were the same tkufa. And many later achronim put them all together. But when we closely learn and analyze what they have to say, 2 different drochim, v'loi koroiv ze el ze. Both are amazing svoras, but they're different, and I will explain the 2 different approaches. Tshuvas Chasam Sofer, 3 different sources. Orach Chaim Peidalet Choshe Mishpat Kuf Beiches and Chelek Vav, Lekutei Tshuvas Chasam Sofer Simen Chov Daled. The same mahalach as the Chasam Sofer Yeshuas Yankov, Hilchos Shabbos, Reish Samach Gimel, Siv Kotten Vav. Their basic approach, and I'll just elaborate a bit to explain Oimak HaSvara. So many of the great Achronim, including the Tzos HaChoshen and Kuf Pei Beis, deal with a fundamental question. By which mitzvahs does Shlichus apply, and by which mitzvahs is Shlichus irrelevant? Everybody quotes a Tosfos Rid in Kiddushin Daf Mem Gimel. Nobody quotes another source which is just as important as the Tosfos Rid, and that's the Rash Mishans, the Pirusho LeToras Koyanim Parshas Emoyo. Both the Rash Mishans and the Tosfos Rid ask, why wouldn't Shlichus apply to Tefillin? Could a person make a Shliach to put on Tefillin? So this is not the sugya we're dealing with. I just want to mention it briefly. So the most sound approach to explain which mitzvahs does Shlichus apply and to which mitzvahs does not Shlichus apply, and I wrote about this in various different sources in my Svom and Minchas Osha. Fundamentally, there are two different categories of mitzvahs, and all the Taryag mitzvahs fit into these two categories. Mitzvahs in which the mere performance of the mitzvah is the tachlis, the essence of avodas ukeil. It's avodas Hashem in its purest form. And other mitzvahs which are all about the result and the outcome, not the actual deed that we perform. Shlichus applies only to mitzvahs which are about the result, about the outcome. So you could make a shliach lemilas haben, you could make a shliach lebir chometz, you could make a shliach to build a maikah, but you can't make a shliach to put on tefillin or tzitzis. So one of the amazing arguments I made, all the mitzvahs of Seder Hayom, Shabbos, and Moed are tamtzes avodas ukeil. All the others are about the result. And it's as simple as that. Because the Jewish routine is a routine of avodas ukeil. That's why we're here. That's why the world is here. That's what creation is all about. So all the mitzvahs, Shabbos, Moed, Seder, Hayom, are avodas ukeil in its purest form. All the others are about the result. And that is why there is no shlichus by any mitzvah that is Seder, Hayom, Shabbos, or Moed. Matzah, Morah, Sukkah, Velulav, Kedusha, Va'avdalta, Mea Brochas, B'kol Yoim, Kriya, Shema, V'tfilah. Shlichus wouldn't apply. And to me, this is not a chiddush at all. So could a person make a shliach for ahavas Hashem? V'yohavto Hashem Elokecho. A person says, I've been through so many difficulties in life. I have a problem loving a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I have a neighbor, a wonderful person, and I made him a shliach to love a Kodesh Baruch Hu instead of me. I see many people smiling out here. Sounds amusing, right? Could a person make a shliach for emunas hayichud? Onoichi Hashem Elokecho. And a person says, I have my struggles and emunah, but I have a wonderful shliach. He's a choshev Rosh Hashiva, and he really believes in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he is moitzi mi yedei choivosi. Sounds insane, but to me, it's exactly the same as tefillin. You can't make a shliach la'avas Hashem. You can't make a shliach la'avodas Hashem. How could you make a shliach la'avodas Elokim? Each and every one of us needs to serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ein shlichus ba'avodas ukeil. And that is why shlichus would only apply to mitzvahs that are about the result, about the outcome. Because what's upon you is to bring about the result. So if you did it al yedei shliach, you were yoitze. Now, this same fundamental principle is also nogea to Averis, because Averis and mitzvahs kruchim yordu min hashamayim. On one hand, nothing is more different than a mitzvah from an Aveira. But in Lamdis, in the Gedorim, they are exactly the same. And in Averis, there are also two different concepts and two different categories. There are Averis that are all about the result, and that is Geneva and Gzela, and probably Loi Sirtzach. And there are Averis which are about the Gavra, not about the Bechefza, not about the result, but about your acts and your deeds. Beineihem, Chilul Shabbos, Laman Yanuach. It's not the result. It's about Laman Yanuach. It's about your Kedushas of Shabbos. And that is why, even according to Shammai Azokain, Yesh Liach Ledavar Aveira, Chilul Shabbos would be an exception. There is no Shlichus by Chilul Shabbos, just like there's no Shlichus by Achilas Matzah. Just like there is no Shlichus by Tefillin and by Kriya Shema, there is no Shlichus by Chilul Shabbos. This is an Aveda, this is a mitzvah, but the Gedorim are the same. And just like in mitzvahs, there are two different concepts, two different categories. Gavra and Chefza. Maisa v'toitzoah. The same is regarding Averis. So Shammai Azokan says, Tzei aroiges ha-nefesh, ha-mishalei ha-chayiv. Yesh liach l'dvar Aveira. Moide Shammai Azokan, ba'oim al-chaveiroi, ba'oiles o-erova, echoiles ha-chelev, lo matzinu zeh nene v'zeh mischayiv. Because Macholas Asuros and Asur Bia are in Gavra. They're not about the result. They're about the action, about the deed. And to me, Mitzvahs Yibum is like Tzei Ba'oiles Erva. Achilas Matzah is like Achilas Chelev. This is a mitzvah, this is an Avera. But the Yesod is the same Yesod. Anything that has to do with a Gavra, Shlichus doesn't apply. So the Yeshuas Yaakov and the Chassam Sofer say, Shlichus doesn't apply to Chilul Shabbos. So it has nothing to do with Rashi. Lechumri yesh shlichus LeNochri. Gam b'Yisrael ein shlichus b'Chilul Shabbos. There is no shlichus b'Chilul Shabbos, like there is no shlichus by Tefillin. There is no shlichus by Kiddush and Avdollah. There is no shlichus by Chilul Shabbos. Because mitzvahs and averos, when it's about the Gavra, not about the Teitzor, not about the result, there is no shlichus. So that's the approach of the Yeshua Sankav and Chassam Sofer. Beis Meir Even Ezer Simen Hey, Nesives Simen Shin Mem Ches. An equally wonderful svara, but different. And their argument is, in my words, Shlichus relates, it doesn't define. Shlichus, I could do my best trying to talk Lomdus in English, but it's never the same as Loshen Kodesh. Loshen Kodesh is the language of Torah. Shlichus, ein ba kedei lahagdir et ha'ma'asim, rak liyaches otam. So when your shliach does something, it's considered as if you did the same. He did it for you. There are many things in the Torah which you could perform by an agent. Kinyonim, Kiddushin, Gerish, and Afrosh Estemis, some mitzvahs and some averos, according to Beis Shammai. But Shlichus would never define the Maisa. What do I mean to say? A Kohen makes a Yisrael, a Shliach, to be Makrav Korbanis beBeis HaMikdash. Would that work? No, because a Zoras posel avoida. But the Zorah says, no, but I'm a Shliach of a Kohen. But Shlichus cannot be machshir. It doesn't define what you're doing. If you're a kohen and he's a kohen, then you could be makrav a korban for him. But if you're a zar and you're posala avoida, Shlichus won't make your avoida valid. You're not qualified to do the avoida because you're the shliach of a kohen if you are not a shliach. So the base man, the Nesiva say, when a non-Jew does a malocha on Shabbos, that is not Chilul Shabbos. It's not defined as Chilul Shabbos. There is no Aveira, so nothing could be transferred back to the Shaliach, because when a non-Jew does a malocha on Shabbos, it's not defined as Chilul Shabbos. He has no Shabbos. To him, it's not Shabbos. So when we say, Yesh shliach ledvar avera lechumra, yesh shlichus LeNochri, but what are we transferring? What are we miyachas to the Meshulah Chilul Shabbos? There is no Chilul Shabbos, because when a non-Jew does a malach on Shabbos, that is not defined as Chilul Shabbos. To him, it's not Shabbos. To him, Shabbos is just another day. And therefore, there's no such a thing as Amirah LeNochri, which would be osor mitzad shlichus lefi divrei Rashi, sheyesh shlichus LeNochri lechumra. So those are the two basic approaches, and both are wonderful svoros and lamdas. However, Shulchan Aruch Harav in two different sources, Reish Mem Gimel Sif Aleph and in Kuntra Sachron Reish Samach Gimel, the Shulchan Aruch Harav says, Amirah LeNochri Shavuos, Mishum Shehu Shlichoi. And Lechoretz Mashman from the Shulchan Aruch Harav, that is the reason Amirah LeNochri Shavuos. Rashi, Shabbos Kuf Nun Gimel, Mipnei Shehu Shlichoi. And most clearly in Hagos Memonios Perik Vav Hilchas Shabbos. Hagos Memonios says, Amirah LeNochri is a Shavuos because Lechumra Yesh Shlichus Legoy. So does the Hagos Memonios to say that Rashi and Bava Metzia Ayin Aleph is the basis for Amirah LeNochri Shavuos? So let me give you my opinion. Goes the other way around. And this is a new approach, it's a chiddush, but to me it seems so poshet. For some reason, whatever I say seems to me so poshet. I think I never was a machadash, a chiddush in my life. So what does Rashi mean when Rashi says in Bava Metzia Dav Tzadik lechumra, yesh shlichus legoy? Why would that be? Doesn't make sense. Ein shlichus LeNochri is not a chumrah or a kula. It's a principle. It's gzeres hakosuf. Ma atem b'nei bris, av shlichachem b'nei bris. Why would there be a difference between kula and chumrah? The difference is because Chazal were geyser Amirah LeNochri Shavuos. And that is exactly what Rashi means. Lechumra yesh shlichus LeNochri. When did that come to be? When Chazal answered Amirah LeNochri. So it's not Amirah LeNochri Shavuos because yesh shlichus LeNochri lechumra. Yesh shlichus LeNochri lechumra because Chazal were geyser and they answered Amirah LeNochri. So Rashi is merely explaining Amirah LeNochri Shavuos. And it is not because yesh shlichus LeNochri lechumra, because the Isra of Amirah LeNochri applies even though we said nothing. He does a malacha on his own l'tzorech Yisrael. We need to be moicha. We need to object. There is no shlichus. We didn't ask him to do anything, and it's still the same Isra of Amirah LeNochri. Rashi merely means to say, and that is the Gos Memonios, they asked Amirah LeNochri mishum shenera keshlichoi, similar to shlichus, somewhat like shlichus. And that is the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Chazal asked Amirah LeNochri, nera keshlichoi. So to me, that Rashi fits in with the Rambam, Sheloi tehei Shabbos kalo b'yainov, afal pi shein shlichus LeNochri. So what would be the Yisr? Chachamim answered, Sheloi tehei Shabbos kalo b'yainov. They answered because nera keshlichoi. And if a person is going to ask others to do Chilul Shabbos for him, he might do so himself. So Rashi and the Rambam are not two different opinions. However, we still have the Rashi and Avodah Zorah that bases Amirah LeNochri Shavuos on V'daber Dover. So two of the great Achronim, the Avnei Nezer, Tuf Kof Chav Vav, and Rabbi Elchanan, Mesechet Beitzah. I think I saw Rabbi Elchanan is in the Sefer, Os Memtes Kovet Shura Mesechet Beitzah. Their approach is Shnei Dinim Ba'Amirah LeNochri. Shnei Dinim. One reason Chazal Mamasor Amirah LeNochri is V'daber Davar. The other is Shlichus. What would be the difference? Is it permissible to ask a Nochri on Erev Shabbos to do a Malacha on Shabbos? If the Yisr would be based on V'daber Davar, would be no Yisr. I did nothing on Shabbos. My Shabbos is pure, intact, shleimisdik. Whatever I did Erev Shabbos. Would it be permissible to ask a Goy on Shabbos to do a Malacha on Sunday? If it would be al Shlichus, would be mutar. So the Isser to ask a Goy on Shabbos to do a Malacha after Shabbos is based on V'daber Davar. The Isser to ask a Goy to do Erev Shabbos to do a Malacha on Shabbos is based on Shlichus. And if you ask a Goy on Shabbos to do a Malacha on Shabbos, you have them both. Beautiful. Beautiful, but unreasonable that there are Shnei Dinim b'Amirah LeNochri. Generally, I don't like Shnei Dinim. I always prefer one complicated din than Shnei Dinim. Every Shnei Dinim should have a remez in Chazal. Amirah LeNochri Shvus. We find nowhere in Chazal that there are Shnei Dinim and Amirah LeNochri. And I think when the Rambam explains Amirah LeNochri, Shaloi Tehei Shabbos Kala B'Yenav, that covers everything. And these are merely details. These are merely details. Yes, Amirah LeNochri is an Isser across the board. Doesn't matter when you said Erev Shabbos and he does the Malacha on Shabbos, if you said Shabbos and he does the Malacha on Sunday. Every form, every tzura, every oifen of Amirah LeNochri is also just to steer clear from Chilul Shabbos. Kedei laharchik es ha'odem minu aveira. Ein ze mestava that there are shnei dinim ba'Amirah LeNochri. So the way I would understand is based on V'daber Davar. And V'daber Davar we see that the Isser and Shabbos is lav dafke if you do an action, if you do a deed, if you do a maisa, sometimes even a dibur could be osar. That is why Chazal asked Amirah LeNochri, Shaloite Kalo B'Yenov, and it is similar to Shlichus. In any form of Shlichus, whether you explicitly made him a Shliach or he does so on his own, it's Nerek Shlichoi, it's Bechlal the Isser of Amirah LeNochri. So I see no stira between Rashi, Rambam, the other Rashi in Shabbos Kuf Nun Gimel Shlichus, and when the Goaz Maimonides says that Amirah LeNochri is also because Yesh Shlichus L'Chimra, it's not that Amirah LeNochri is also because Yesh Shlichus L'Chimra. Yesh Shlichus L'Chimra because Chazal answered Amirah LeNochri. And that is the essence of the din of Amirah LeNochri Shvus. So I mentioned before, what are the cases in which Chazal are lenient in the Isser of Amirah LeNochri? Number one, Chodesh Yom B'Sakona. Number two, Yeshuv Eretz Yisrael, according to the Bala Itur, quoted by the Ramah, Letzorech Mitzvah, Shin Zayin Sifei, Shvus de Shvus b'Mokai Mitzvah. You could do a Shvus al Yedei Goy, b'Mokai Mitzvah, b'Mokai Cholik Tzas, b'Mokai Tzorech Godol. Those are the three principles that we find in Shin Zayin Sifei. And those are kulas only by Amirah LeNochri and not by any other shvus, because it's a shvus she'ein bo ma'aseh. Now a few practical halachas. Are there any ways, is there any methodology to be makel by Amirah LeNochri? So the Ramon Shin Zayin Sif Chav Beis clearly writes, whatever you can't ask a guy to do, you can't be meramez. Even though you're not asking him outright to do a malacha. You're just indicating to him. Remiza is also. However, the Mugan Avram Sif Kotan Lamed Aleph and the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotan Ayin Vav say, expressing need or expressing desperation is mutar. You can't tell him put on the light. But you could tell him, wow, we forgot to put on the light there of Shabbos and it's terribly dark in here. That is permissible. You could express a need. You could express desperation, and that is mutar. Kach Kosav Mogan Avram, and that's the psak of the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Kotan Ayin Vav. So what does the Ramo mean when he says that Remiza is Asur? So the mashal that the Ramo writes is, you tell him, clean your nose. Doesn't sound very funny, but once upon a time when you told him clean your nose, you meant take the pecham off the wick of the candle. It should light better. So the Magen Avraham explains, you cannot express any command, any tzivui to the non-Jew, even though you're using codes. You're not using the right words. You don't tell him put on the light, but you tell him make light. See to it that we have light in here. That's also. You don't tell him stoke the fire, but you tell him do something, it should be warm. That's also. But expressing need, if it's not a command, it's not a tzivui, is mutar. You could tell him it's terribly cold in here, and we forgot to turn on the heat. That's mutar. So that's the Magen Avraham, and that's the Mishnah Berurah. And many are astonished by this halacha, because even when you didn't ask him to do anything, if a guy does a malacha l'tzarich yisol, tzorach limcha yisboy. And that's a Gemara Shabbos Kuf Chav Beis. And it's halacha pshuta in Shulchan Aruch. So how could you be merames if you need to object, even if he does it on his own? So the teretz is that the heter of remiza is only in those circumstances in which there would be no chayvis machoa. What are the circumstances in which there would be no chayvis machoa? Whenever a guy does a malacha letzorech Yisrael, not for his own need, but letzorech Yisrael, tzorech limcha yisboy. So the Chai Odom and Klal Samech Beis, Mishnah Berurah, in Shin Zayin and Bihalacha, say that the chayvis machoa is only relevant when there's an isur lahanois from the malacha b'di'evet. So the halacha is, if a goy is madlik as a ner, but there was some light even before. Now there's better lighting. You could be koire la'or haner, because you could do it even without the malacha of the non-Jew. It would be more difficult, not as comfortable, not as pleasant, but anything you could do without his malacha, mutar lahanois memalachtoi. So if it's cold in the room and the non-Jew stoked the fire in the fireplace, he turned on the heat, you don't have to leave the room. And in those cases, you don't have to be moichi, you don't have to object. And in those cases, remiza muteret. So these three halachas are dependent one on the other. There could be no heter for remiza, for expressing a need, in those cases in which you would need to object when he does it on his own. But there is no chiyuv machoa if he does a malacha from which mutar lahenois b'di'eved. So it is only when there is an issa hanoa b'di'eved that there's a chayvis machoa, and when there's a chayvis machoa, there could be no heter for remiza. So when the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah say that a person could express need, it is in those cases in which there is no chayvis machoa. What are those cases? In a situation in which b'di'eved mutar lahenois memaleches hagoy. What are those situations? You take advantage of his malacha, but you do things that you could do anyhow. So you're sitting in the dark. There's afsakat chashmal, the electricity, there's a blackout. You would still eat. It's not as pleasant. Sometimes you won't find your mouth, you'll make your nose dirty or your beard, but you would still eat. So if a non-Jew puts on the light, you're entitled to eat because you would eat regardless. You would eat even if he wouldn't put on the light. And in that case, ein tzorach limchois. V'kiven she'ein tzorach limchois, mutar l'rmuz. Expressing a need is mutar if there is no chovis machor. There is no chovis machor when there is no isor b'di'evet. So these three halachas depend one on the other. So the Tur writes in Simaresh Ayin Vav, Mishnah Berurah Shin Zayin, Siv Kotan Ayin Vav, anything you could do without the Malachas Goy, you're entitled to do with the Malachas Goy. So if there is some light in the room, and you would be able to learn, you would need to make an effort, it wouldn't be pleasant, and an anju turns on a bright light, then you could be nana, because you would be able to read, you would be able to learn even without the Malachas Goy. In that case, mutar lehenois. Another halacha we find in Simaresh Ayin Vav Sif Aleph in the Ramah, you never need to leave your room, because this is where I would sit regardless, whether it's hot or cold, whether it's light or dark. This is my home. So you never need to leave the room. If an anju comes in and he gives you heat and he supplies you light, ein tzorach lutzeis. So in those cases, there is no chovis machor, and in those cases, remiza muteret, and that's a gewaldige chiddush. But that's the psak of the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah. Another interesting machlokes we find, b'divrei gedolei achronim, and this is just an example of the koicha dehetera that we find in some of the greatest achronim, which is sometimes amazing. Shiur. Shiur lived 400 years ago, in the days of the Magen Avraham, one of the greatest gedolim. And I'm a great admirer of the Shiur, not that he really needs my admiration, but one of the amazing gedolim, Kol HaTorah Kula, was open to him. And the Shiur writes in two different shuvas, Simen Mem Vav and Simen Nun Gimel, a gewaldige chiddush. Amirah de Amirah is mutar. You can't ask a guy to do a malacha, but you can ask a guy to tell another non-Jew to do a malacha. What is the basis for this kula? Unbelievable. He has no source in Hilchas Shabbos, but he writes in Hilchas Yayin Nesach we find that koyach koicha is not koicha. Interesting. Koyach koicha is not koicha. And in Masechtas Trumis we find gedule gedulin is not gedulin. Gedule truma asurin. Gedule gedulin mutarim. Koichoi asses yayin nesach. Koichoi doesn't asse yayin nesach. So if koichoi isn't like koichoi and gedulin isn't like gedulin, then Amirah da Amirah wouldn't be like Amirah. Svora ba'alma. Interesting. So that's the Shiur. And he turned to one of the great gedolim of his time, the Avodas HaGershuni, and he asked him what he thinks about his chiddush. And the Avodas HaGershuni was very unhappy about it. And he says, what are you talking about? Eina nidin doim ala raya. What does one thing have to do with the other? And he totally disagrees. So the Avodas HaGershuni brings a raya. Well, the raya is disputable. It's not really much of a raya, but I think it's more machlokes and fundamental approach to halacha. The Shiur says, well, koyach sheni is always different than koyach rishon. So any additional step farther is not the same. And if Chazal Aserd Amirah, who said the Aserd Amirah de Amirah? Chazal Aserd making a shliach to perform a malacha. But you speak to Mr. Joe, and he speaks to Mr. Jack, and it's Amirah de Amirah. There no longer is an Isser of Amirah LeNochri. And sometimes, in extreme cases, we would rely on the Shiur because the Mishnah Berurah, Shin Zayin, Siv Kotten Chov Dalet, quotes Reb Shlomo Kluger, B'mokem have said, Yesh lahokel ba'amirah de Amirah. So Reb Shlomo Kluger is somewhat of a compromise, and the Mishnah Berurah quotes Reb Shlomo Kluger and Siv Kotten Chov Dalet in Shin Zayin regarding Amirah de Amirah. Gedolei Hungaria have a machlokes. How do we understand the kula of the Shiur? Reb Shimon Greenfeld and Reb Yisrochel Shlomo Teichtal were two of the greatest gedolim in Hungary. Reb Yisrochel Shlomo Teichtal is the Baal Mishnah Socher. He also wrote a sefer called Ema Bonim Semecho. Some of his grandchildren would like to forget about the Ema Bonim Samecha, but they're very proud of the Mishnah Sochia. So Shalas Teshuvas Mishnah Sochia, I didn't say why, but you could inquire. So Shalas Teshuvas Mishnah Sochia, Chelak Aleph Siman Ayin Zayin, he says that Amirah Damira is mutar even though guy number 2 knows that he's doing the malacha for a Jew. It's just a technicality. Afal Piken, it's mutar, according to the Shiur. Chuvas Maharshag, Reb Shimon Greenfeld, says no. The kul of the Shiur is only based on the fact that guy number 2 is not aware that this is a malacha for a Jewish person. You ask Mr. A, and he speaks to Mr. B, and Mr. B is doing a malacha for Mr. A. But if he is aware that he's doing the malacha for you, then this kula would not apply. So that's a machlokes between two of the great Hungarian Gedolim in the pre-Holocaust period, Chuvas Marshag and Mishnah Sochia. And a Mike Sovim, I wrote that the Prima Godem Mishbetzai Zoav Sov Simen Reisha and Vav clearly sides with the Mishnah Sochia. That according to the Shiur, it's mutar, regardless of whether the guy knows that he's doing a malacha for Yisrael. On the other hand, Chuvas Chasam Soifi Yoredeya Reish Peches, not Orachayim, but rather Yoredeya, clearly indicates the opinion of the Marsham that this heter doesn't apply only in a case in which the goy actually performing the malacha is not aware that this is a malacha for a Jewish person. So we discussed some of the halacha l'maaseh questions with the achronim and the poskim deal with in the sugya of Amirah LeNochri. But first we spoke about the fundamental ideas of the sugya, why Chazal assered Amirah LeNochri, and in what cases were Chazal mekel. Son, well, when dealing with businesses on Shabbos, it is not only Amirah LeNochri we're dealing with, but definitely Amirah LeNochri is one of the common halachas, not only in businesses, but in Jewish homes. And I think Amirah LeNochri is more relevant in Jewish homes than in Jewish businesses. So on one hand, some people are extremely mekel on Amirah LeNochri, which is a terrible mistake. Yes, it's a shvus kal, it's a shvus she'ein bar ma'aseh, but it's a shvus. And when it's osur, it's osur. So in some circles, people think that you can do everything with a non-Jew, which is a terrible mistake. Chazal asad Amirah LeNochri, and we need to be thoroughly versed in the details of halacha, when we could be mekel and when we need to be machmir. So as I quoted before, the Ramon Simen Reisha Vov quotes that yesh makom shenagu lahokel al yedei Amirah LeNochri b'tzoyrech mitzvah. It was very common in Europe, before we had electricity, that there were non-Jews that came into the shuls to put on the candles Shabbos afternoon before mincha. They came into the shuls to put out the candles after davening, because there was a terrible danger of fire. And people davened to candlelight. And they didn't want to leave the shul with the candles burning. There was a danger of fire. And that was a common practice that non-Jews came in to put out the candles and Shabbos afternoon to light the candles. One of the most beautiful shuls in the world is the Portuguese shul in Amsterdam. And I was there many times. Whenever I visit Amsterdam for a Botzes Torah, I always go again and again to that shul because it's so inspiring. And the Portuguese shul in Amsterdam was built by Jews that fled Spain and Portugal in the times of the Inquisition. And as we know, Jews fled Spain and they settled in Portugal for a very short time. The Inquisition came to Portugal 2 years after they persecuted and murdered Jews in Spain. And then thousands upon thousands of Jews made their way north to Holland, to Amsterdam, which was very embracing to the Jewish people. And people that ran away from Spain and Portugal built a beautiful, magnificent shul, and that's a Portuguese shul in Amsterdam. And that shul is untouched. They still don't have electricity. And Yomim Niroim, once a year they daven in that shul. And it's an amazing story. The same family of Jews that had the chazukah for hundreds, same family of non-Jews, same family of Goyim that have the chazukah to put on the candles Yom Kippur afternoon for the Jews, cherish that chazukah. And they come in every year to light the candles. So some Jews in Amsterdam told me there are 613 candles in that shul, Minyan Taryag. I never had the time and the patience to count. Doesn't seem likely. I don't think there are that many candles. But they have that minig up to this very day. V'minig avoseim b'yadeim. That's an unbroken tradition. Besides the years that the Nazis were in Amsterdam at the Holocaust, Yimach Shemam v'zichron. This is a tradition that goes on for hundreds of years. And it's the same non-Jewish family that has the chazukah. So if they would come to me and I would need to decide whether that chazukah is valid, that would be an interesting question, but didn't come to my desk, so I don't really have to deal with it. But that's just an example of Amirah LeNochri b'mokom tzorech gadol, or Amirah LeNochri b'mokom mitzvah. So putting on the candles Shabbos afternoon, Yom Kippur afternoon is mokom mitzvah. Putting out the candles by night probably would be a tzorech gadol. And the Ramo brings that in many kehilas they were mekel Amirah LeNochri b'mokom mitzvah, but the Ramo rejects. But he is mekel b'mokom tzorech gadol, like I mentioned before.